Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and there is a war looming, and it's a war that is going to be epic in scale, something like we've never seen before, and it is a trade war, and of course we are seeing the results of Trump's tariffs on steel, etc., and other things that, aluminum, all these other things that he's basically saying we are going to fight China and Japan to some extent, tooth and nail, and China is already having issues with trade and etc., land disputes, all that with India, and it's continuing to pile on and on and on. The Chinese empire has been a very powerful one. They're not the kind of people that you want to try pulling their hair and pinching them. I think it's best that you usually leave that beast alone and deal with what do you have to deal with at home and free the markets and let the individuals decide. But of course, China is a very collectivist communist country. It's also a very fascist country. It's a mixture of many kinds of collectivism, and it's absolutely insane. But of course, Xi Jinping, who just said that he's basically just declared himself president for life, something that Trump said, maybe we should do that someday, or maybe we should look into doing that. It's just insane. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, there's been a lot of weird statements by him lately. But with that said, he is fighting back, and he says there will be war and there will be blood. And John, can you go into what on earth is actually happening with this whole situation?
Well, first of all, what happened first was a currency war. And the currency war, you've seen over time, we actually mentioned it a couple of times in some other older videos that we had about how China is devaluing their currency, and that's why they're so extremely competitive.
They have huge debt.
Oh yeah, but they're also dirt cheap. Their labor is worth nothing. But then actually now you have other Asian countries that are even cheaper, like Vietnam and other countries and Cambodia that actually become so much cheaper. But it's just like a push from this whole fiat currency system that are pushing everybody into this fight with each other. First, this is like a dangerous thing. You first get currency wars, then you get trade wars, and then you get a hot war. All the way throughout history, this has happened so many times. And as we said before, when goods stops crossing borders, soldiers will. So it's a dangerous, a mixture of what they're like trying to do now with Trump, of course, trying to fight back against the cheap goods from China that they shipped all their industry over there, so now they're trying to fight back. Oh, well, we need our industry back in the U.S. Well, yeah, that's fine, you can do that, but now you're gonna have to pay at least 5-6 times more for everything.
Well, yeah, and it's a tax on Americans, really, in the end. More taxes, woohoo, more inflation of production. But John, what's the latest on all of this?
Well, there's some very important things that are happening right now that are huge news, which not a lot of people. There's some people in the finance, YouTube channels that have been talking about this, but it's the implementation of the Shanghai exchange that's going to take care of oil futures traded in yuan. So that has never happened before, that another country has tried to encroach onto the US that has a monopoly on futures trade in US dollars, of course. And that's why they became a global world reserve currency, is because the deal with Saudi Arabia to price their oil in dollars. And that's what with Kissinger meeting there, back in the 70s, that's what created the whole power.
Yeah, let me just do a quick background then, because of course Kissinger, without Nixon's permission, went and met with Mao Zedong back in the early 70s, and of course established this relationship with this communist country, this dictator that killed somewhere in conservatively 25 to 50 million people. They're not really sure. It could be more than that, which is a bad sign of how many people he obviously killed. Real collectivism at work, folks. The end agenda of real collectivism. But then moving on from that, it was Zbigniew Brzezinski under Jimmy Carter went and met with the Chinese government and established the Trilateral Commission. And the Trilateral Commission has been growing ever since, pushing a technocratic agenda that our friend Patrick Wood has written about extensively and explained very well. And it's something that is, we're seeing the end results of today, and this push for a cashless system that we've gone into a million times as well. And it's really creating this global empire with China at the head. And China is banking on the inevitable of the United States economy coming crashing down, which it has to eventually. So does China's, but China's really hoping, they want to see, the United States come crashing down first. And, act real nice for a while with the United States and shake hands and smile and all that. The idea is far more nefarious than it appears. Yeah, absolutely. So, John, what else is coming up in this?
Well, yeah, it was the Shanghai Exchange is the Shanghai Futures Exchange, of course, that is going to be traded on, and people can also there then sell oil to China and then collect gold on the same exchange. So this is like a huge thing that is developing out of China that is a massive dent into attacking the US dollar and the decline of the US empire, because that's what we're seeing right now. And of course, China has put themselves as number one to want to take the place of the United States, which is really dangerous. Think about that. It's a communist country that are working with the IMF. They become a part of the basket there in the SDR. And then, of course, they have another massive project on the go, which is, of course, they want to create back the new Silk Road. And that initiative is, of course, called the One Belt, One Road initiative. And if you can look at this map here, Josh will show it on the screen. It shows, of course, the new Silk Road economic route, and it goes through, of course, all of Asia, through Kazakhstan and other, Stan countries there, and through the Middle East into Istanbul. Then it goes up to Moscow and to Europe. And then, of course, they have a sea route, which is going to go through Malaysia, Indonesia, through Sri Lanka, and then it's going to go into Africa and then come up, of course, through the Suez Canal. So there's a lot of moves that they're building. And, of course, I've been watching a couple of documentaries lately about this massive One Belt, One Road initiative. And in Kazakhstan, on the border there, they're creating a massive, of course, city, China right now, which is insane. I just saw it, like, it just 2 years they created a huge city, and then the lady went and asked, so those towers, how many businesses are in them? It's like, there's nobody there living there yet. So there's nobody in the city on the one side, and then Kazakhstan on the other side has, of course, a lot of fascism involved in their country, and they're just like built, like you could just see like half-built structures on the one side where there's billions of dollars, billions of yuans getting shoved into this project, and of course the Chinese have been so great at creating ghost cities all around China, and now they're trying to create this massive road, and they're going to rebuild the whole road all the way to Europe with high-speed trains, with of course, massive amounts of transportation trains. Like, they're cutting down of course, into half the transportation period of time that it takes. And of course, this is a big move because China is trying to put in kind of infrastructure in place to impose and become the new United States, because the United States has military bases everywhere. China has approached it from a little bit of a different perspective, Josh, where they are spending billions upon billions upon billions, well, trillions of yuans to build infrastructure, and to build infrastructure in other lands to get them aboard onto their agenda. And then, they come in and, use their resources, because think about it, 1.3 billion people lives in China, and it's mass amounts of people that are now becoming like the United States was. They're getting into mass amounts of debt. They're creating a huge middle class now in China through this, push into debt and pushing people into debt. And it's funny, 1,000 years since they first put people into debt in China with the Sung Dynasty, creating one of the world's first fiat currency. They're coming back again and they're trying to come back to that empire that was created by the first fiat. But I think the whole system in China is going to fall down, Josh. It's going to, completely dissolve, because problem is they're printing tons upon tons of money out of thin air, and where's that money going to go? It's just insane. Yeah, they're building, like, people are saying, Trump needs to spend trillions of dollars on new infrastructure. The problem is you're spending so much money on this, but now everything else is going to raise in price in China, which has been one of the cheapest places in the world because of their cheap currency. But I think we're going to see a lot of problems. And in a recent article, Josh, it was talked about how China was number one, where it was a risk of banking system failure together with Canada. So I think there's a huge problem coming ahead for China, in their push, of course, to take over as world empire.
Yeah, absolutely. As he mentioned, I think it was a Bank for International Settlements just recently mentioned that I believe it was Canada, China, and Hong Kong. Their economies are the three most at risk of a banking crisis in the coming short term. And, this is just the inevitable end of the centralization of an empire, and we will see it all come crashing down eventually. But first, we will see a lot of blood and a lot of gore, unfortunately, and this is what we are walking face first right into. And it's not just at our front door, it's walking in our home at this point.
No, it's the danger, and that's the end game here. It's the hot war. Throughout history, we've seen the trade war, the currency wars, then the trade wars, and then the hot wars. And do you think that we're not going to repeat history over again because we're doing exactly the same things? So it's really dangerous here. You talked about the South China Sea and everything that's happening there, but of course China has just a mass population. It's just massive state that they have, and they're forcing. But who knows? Maybe people can start. I know that there's groups like Falun Gong that are trying to fight back, exposing what the Chinese are doing in their country and others. So hopefully we can get back to the people of China waking up. Because I'm going to mention this just one last thing, which was the Sesame Credit, which Facebook founder Zuckerberg was over there helping creating. Now, of course, there was an article out just a recent day that they're gonna. I warned about this. So now they're gonna use it because if you have a bad Sesame Credit, which is the government ranking you of how obedient you are to the government, they said if you have X amount of a ranking, well, now you can't take a train or you can't fly anywhere. Oh, surprise, right? So this is just a massive control grid. And then, of course, China is building over, I think it was 9 million cameras now that they're putting in everywhere. And they're creating, of course, the police have augmented reality glasses so they can actually see through facial recognition criminals and everything, or people that they don't like. So it's just a massive, technocratic state that they're building on top of this global communist empire that they're trying to push onto the global populace.
Would we consider that RoboCop or the Terminator? I'm not sure, but one thing I know for sure is that they want to push towards the Chinese way of running government and enslaving the populace, because of course people are far more subservient in China and far more used to the collectivism, the vast collectivism that they are basically in complete servitude to. So this is very important for the global complex to push towards this direction, just like it's been important for them to push towards a more subservient Middle East, and they will continue to do so until the people are on their knees. But we cannot be on our knees, good people. We need to break free from the chains that so many of us revere, and that is government organized crime, and be able to break free from that as individuals and with voluntary actions between free individuals, and as self-responsible, independent, free people, not a collective, subservient to a global cartel that's telling us what we can and cannot do with our own lives. Life is important. It's all you have. It's really the basis of everything for you. And to take that away is just as evil as it gets.
Yeah, and you saw with China taking over Hong Kong, from Britain, you saw that they slowly tried to, take away any powers that they had from the free market that they had there. So it's just people, of course, are standing up now in China. There's more and more people I see it around, but of course it's such a control grid. But I think people can come out there and stand up against this terrible government that is running the communist government over there, and finally free people from this thought pattern of just this global construct that everybody is going to be in this beautiful place called communism, while of course the people at top they sit and drink and have a good time while the peasants are dying.
Yeah, and unfortunately, if anyone is watching this video that is Chinese, they're probably not watching it from China, because, of course, you'd have to be breaking the law to do so, which is another huge example of just how totalitarian they are. You want to see information that conflicts with our official viewpoint? Well, we will not give you access to that information. Here, take some government information instead, quote unquote. So anyway, it's just insanity. We will continue to cover it as we always have. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth.
Be the change.
Like what you see here, OM, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, we can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube as the ADL comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. You can also find our Bitcoin address in the description as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And don't forget to find us at Josh Sigurdson at steemit.com. That's steemit.com, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post in cryptocurrency, Steem that is. So don't forget to find us there, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.